Ever had your power go out at the worst possible time?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
right in the middle of a big game or something?
Yeah, definitely.
I remember once, it turned out a squirrel had chewed through a cable. Crazy, right?
That's nuts. But it happens more than you think.
And you know who gets called in to prevent those kinds of shenanigans?
Let me guess. The unsung heroes. Utilities inspectors.
Right on. So today we're diving deep into the world of utilities inspection, figuring out what it takes to keep those essential systems running smoothly.
You're right. It's easy to take those systems for granted until something goes wrong.
Totally. Out of sight, out of mind, as they say.
Exactly. And that's what makes this profession so interesting. We're talking about a whole network that's often hidden underground,
Mm-hmm.
behind walls, things we don't usually see. But it's the backbone of our modern world.
It's like a secret society keeping everything running.
Kind of. And the utilities inspectors, they're the guardians of it all, making sure everything is up to code and, most importantly, safe.
Speaking of keeping things safe, our source for this deep dive, RoleCatcher, revealed something surprising about the top 10% of utilities inspectors.
Oh, like what?
They all share this one key skill: empathy.
Empathy. That's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think of inspecting pipes and wires.
Right, but think about it. It's not just about dealing with equipment, it's about dealing with people, too.
Ah, that makes sense.
Like, imagine having to explain a complex code violation to a homeowner, someone who might be confused, maybe even scared.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to add to their stress in that situation.
Exactly.
Damn.
That's where empathy comes in, being able to communicate clearly and calmly, putting people at ease while still making sure everything meets those safety standards.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
So, empathy, check. But let's get into the actual job description. RoleCatcher gets into the nitty-gritty, and let me tell you, it's surprisingly varied.
Oh, in what way?
Well, one day you could be examining a sewer system,
Okay, not the most glamorous.
and then the next, you're inspecting giant turbines.
Now that's pretty cool.
Right, and in between all that, there's a lot of report writing happening.
Ah, so there's a desk job element too.
It's not all action and adventure.
I guess that variety keeps things interesting, though. And it really speaks to the detective work aspect we mentioned earlier.
Oh, totally. Like, it's more than just spotting a crack in a pipe, right?
Exactly. You have to figure out how that crack got there, what caused it, and what could happen down the line if it's not fixed.
It's all about connecting those dots and using those critical thinking skills to prevent major issues before they blow up.
Exactly. Like, imagine a tree root growing too close to the main water line.
Uh-oh, recipe for disaster.
Exactly. It's a code violation waiting to happen. RoleCatcher actually gives an example of this very scenario. Apparently, inspectors who use 3D modeling software to visualize potential problems, like that tree root situation, are twice as likely to prevent those major disruptions.
So it's not just about fixing problems, it's about anticipating them.
Precisely. Staying ahead of the curve.
And speaking of staying ahead of the curve, let's talk about how technology is changing the game in utilities inspection.
Definitely. There's some fascinating stuff happening.
RoleCatcher mentions automation and digitization as major factors. And I gotta say, I'm really curious to see what that looks like in practice.
Well, remember those 3D models we were just talking about?
Yeah.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. They're using some amazing tech out in the field,
Yeah.
like LiDAR-equipped drones.
LiDAR-equipped drones. Okay, now you're just using big words to make me feel like I'm back in tech class.
Sorry, but trust me, it's cool. LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging, and these drones use lasers to make incredibly detailed 3D maps of underground pipelines.
So instead of sending someone down a manhole.
Exactly. Much safer and more efficient.
Wow, that's incredible. It seems like technology is really changing the game in terms of both safety and how efficient these inspections can be.
It's pretty cool stuff, and RoleCatcher actually gets into the whole career path thing.
So what does it take? How do you become one of these utility heroes? Spill the beans.
Well, you don't have to be like some kind of tech genius,
Okay, good to know.
but it definitely doesn't hurt.
Neat.
RoleCatcher lays it all out, and it seems like it usually starts with entry-level positions,
Makes sense.
focusing on the basics,
Which are?
things like learning to read blueprints, understanding all those safety protocols, super important, obviously,
Right.
and then just getting familiar with all the equipment.
Okay, so a solid foundation.
Exactly. Got to build that base before you go, like, rappelling into sewer systems
Maybe not repelling right away.
or, piloting those inspection drones we were talking about.
Right, right. But there's definitely room to grow, right? Once you've got those basics down.
Oh, absolutely. As you gain experience, you move up into those junior and intermediate roles.
Okay.
You start taking on more responsibility,
Hmm.
leading inspections, troubleshooting those really complex issues,
Yeah.
maybe even training new recruits.
So it's like leveling up in a video game or something.
Exactly. Except instead of saving, Princess Peach,
Right.
you're saving entire neighborhoods from power outages, burst pipes, all that fun stuff.
Way more important than Princess Peach, let's be honest.
Totally. And speaking of leveling up, RoleCatcher talks about how important certifications are in this field.
Oh, really?
Apparently, earning those specific certifications, it can, really boost your earning potential
Makes sense.
and open up doors to leadership positions later on.
So it's not just about climbing the ladder, you're like expanding your skill set as you go.
Exactly. The best inspectors, they're lifelong learners, always wanting to stay ahead of the curve, learning about new technologies, new regulations. It's constantly evolving.
It makes sense you'd have to.
Like those LiDAR-equipped drones, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Well, somebody's got to know how to operate those things.
Right, and interpret the data they're collecting.
Exactly. It's a lot of responsibility.
That sounds like it.
But that's part of what makes it so rewarding. I mean, RoleCatcher found that over 80% of utilities inspectors, they feel this, really strong sense of job satisfaction
That's awesome.
because they know their work has a direct impact on keeping people safe.
Right, and the community as a whole.
Exactly. They're kind of like those silent guardians working behind the scenes.
You don't get a cape or anything.
No capes, but you're making a real difference.
Maybe a high-vis vest instead of a cape.
Haha, exactly. Although, now that I think about it, picture this. You're piloting a drone through a network of underground tunnels, using lasers to map out potential problems.
Okay, that does sound kind of cool.
Right, like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Okay, you've officially convinced me this job is way cooler than I thought it was at first.
I told you.
But let's be real for a sec. RoleCatcher also mentioned some challenges, right? It's not all laser beams and high-tech gadgets, is it?
Right. It's not always glamorous, that's for sure. We're talking working outdoors in all kinds of weather, dealing with potentially dangerous materials. Sometimes, you might even have to crawl through some pretty tight spaces. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
So not for everyone, then.
Not for everyone, no. It takes a certain kind of person.
Yeah.
Someone who's not afraid of hard work, not easily grossed out by, the occasional spider web.
Being 10.
Right, exactly. But those who are up for the challenge, they're rewarded with a career that's fulfilling and really makes a difference.
And I'm guessing that's not easy to find these days.
For sure. And RoleCatcher really emphasized that. They said this field offers this rare combo of job security, you've got the intellectual stimulation, and a real tangible impact on the community.
So it ticks a lot of boxes for the right person.
It really does.
Okay, so we've covered the skills, the tech, the good, the bad, all of it. But before we wrap up, what would you say is the main takeaway here? What's the one thing RoleCatcher really wants people to remember about utilities inspection?
That's a great question. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here, from empathy to drones with lasers.
Right.
What would you say is the one big takeaway from all this? What does RoleCatcher really want us to remember about the world of utilities inspection?
For me, it really boils down to this. Next time your lights flicker, or maybe the water pressure drops.
Which happens more often than I'd like to admit.
Right. Just take a second to think about all those hidden systems that make it all work, and the people who keep those systems running.
It's easy to forget about until something breaks.
Exactly. We don't think about the electricity coming into our homes, or the water, or how our waste gets taken care of. Not until there's a problem, at least.
And those problems can be a real pain.
That's an understatement. It can disrupt our lives, businesses, even put our safety at risk.
And that's where our utilities inspectors come in. Exactly. They're the ones making sure everything is running safely, efficiently, and reliably.
It's a huge responsibility.
For sure. But also incredibly rewarding, knowing you're making a real difference in the community.
So next time you're enjoying a hot shower without a worry in the world, remember the utilities inspector's working hard behind the scenes to make that happen.
Give thanks for the invisible guardians of our infrastructure.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that's it for today's deep dive into the world of utilities inspection. We hope you learned something new, and maybe, just maybe, you've discovered a new career path you want to explore.